this is the video you need to watch. This will be a very comprehensive breakdown of both weapons in our series. We use a mixture of facts, opinions and feelings to break down these weapons and tell you which one is the best for multiplayer, Warzone and zombies. Scratch that. No zombies? Really? That's disappointing. Let's get right into it. In the blue corner is the M4A1 versus the Bruen Mk9. The M4A1, the monster, the gun to beat. The Bruen Mk9, the challenger. The gun which is a bitch to unlock but is worth it all in the end. And yes, I'll make a video about that later, but for now let's talk about the numbers. I thought this was going to be a wash for the M4A1, but you'd be surprised. It's not that simple. The M4A1 is accurate, quick, and also very adaptable, and is widely considered to be the benchmark for all weapons in the game. Not top tier in many aspects, but really good in all aspects, making it a really cheap gun to be killed by. We have a selection of rounds you can use with this. You have the normal assault rifle ammo, which comes in flavours of 30, 50 and 60 round mags, which apparently makes handling worse, but you'll not notice it. We have the 32 round 9mm power rounds, which is fun as fuck in multiplayer but has no place in Warzone. And then we have the 10 round 10mm Socom rounds, which has no place in multiplayer but is fun as fuck in Warzone, if not the most practical. And we will feature that quite a bit in this vid, as it's a serious consideration for Warzone actually. Now, you know what you're getting yourself into when you use the M4A1. You need a couple of recoil attachments, usually a mag attachment and a barrel. Generally, it's quite a dependable weapon and is usually the gun people will turn to when they feel they're not playing very well and they're not in good form. One major advantage this gun has is its base movement speed and the ability to use an under-barrel mount. For example, a shotgun, which is actually surprisingly effective in close quarters combat. Having that on a 60 round mag build is extremely viable, and I'm genuinely surprised that more people don't use it. Just check out this clip for an example. I hear footsteps. Sounds like they're armoring up. Dealt with, team wipe. On movement speed, the movement speed for an LMG can be competitive, so don't let that fact alone sway your mind for the M4A1 thinking the Bruen will be slow and not unable to compete with it, because it's simply not the case. The only real flaw the M4A1 has is that it's a little bit hit markery at its maximum range, and that's a bit shit if you don't have a sniper to make up for that shortfall in Warzone. In multiplayer, it's not much of a problem because you're not really going to be at a range where that's often a problem. Warzone though, outside its range, it's usable, it's effective, but you'd be better off using the Grau outside of the M4A1 range. Or more specifically, you'd be better using the Bruen outside that range when using the standard assault rifle ammo or the 9mm para ammunition. The Socom rounds are going to give you a bit more power at ranges, but they are going to be harder shots to land because the recoil is up quite a bit. And it's not just straight vertical recoil, it's also horizontal recoil as well, meaning you'll need recoil stabilization attachments as well. Reload speed for all weapon variants are good and don't force you to relocate to reload. Just drop your head, pop it back up and slay some fools. Fire rate is solid 2 across all ammo types. Now let's briefly talk about the 9mm power rounds. I see videos on YouTube saying they may be underlooked, underrated. I disagree. I think you don't see them often for a reason. The reason being that you're better off just using an actual SMG. If you're thinking of using this, just use an AUG or an MP7 or literally any other submachine gun. The only purpose those rounds have, in my opinion, is if you want an SMG but you're stuck doing challenges for the M4A1. That's literally the only reason I can think of I'd use them. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, it's actually quite good, but other SMGs are going to give you more room and require less attachments to get them to high movement speed monsters. Now, let's talk about its big brother, 10mm 10 round Socom. This is filthy good. Like, really filthy. I've got a video about this in the pipeline because they are what's underrated in my opinion. Have you used this? If you have, you know why they get a mention in this video. These rounds offer the highest raw damage per second across both weapons. Yeah, that does more damage than the Bruen Mk9, but it's not as easy as that, because you wouldn't be here otherwise, would you, if the 10mm just beat everything else so easily. That 10 round mag is a bit of a problem. It feels like as soon as you've started firing, you have to reload. It is a drawback, so is it worth using over the 60 rounds or even the 30 round mag? Yes and no. Multiplayer, this is a bad shout. It can't compete with multiple enemies at once unless they're in a line where waiting for you to kill them. I do find success for it in cyber attack and search and destroy though. It just seemed to melt. Now in Warzone, for the same question, yes and no. Again, if you pick your fights, then yeah, this is the 1v1 king. This will kill the quickest out of any of the ammo variants or guns that we are talking about today. You get that 1v1 and you pick that bugger off and you put yourself in a position where you can focus on just one dude, you've won that fight. And ping isn't even a contributing factor in that fight like it is with other guns. You'll break straight through that barrier. So long as you hit your shots. You will need to use a compensator M16 barrel commando foregrip because this will jump and wiggle all over the shop otherwise. But is it worth dropping a suppressor? If you're doing solos, use the 10mm Socom. Taking a fight at range, single fire mode, kills the recoil dead too. It's so good in 1v1 in solos. This is the variant you should use if you trust your aim and skills in a gunfight. It's a medium risk, extremely high reward weapon. Well, it's medium risk for me, maybe high risk for you if you're not as accurate or if you're on a controller. Even compared to the Bruen Mk9, 10mm will blow it out of the water and send its user to the gulag. Sleight of hand isn't essential as the reload speed isn't too punishing, but it does have its place if you're not as good in your positioning as other players are. But you'd have to sacrifice an optic or a recoil attachment for it. Don't sacrifice the barrel for it. But if you are looking for a more in-depth 10mm review, hit like, let me know, as one will be coming in the pipeline and I will prioritize that for you. Right, let's move on to the Bruen Mk9, the LMG. Strange, I thought the LMG would be killed and hung out to dry by the M4A1, but it isn't. It's actually really competitive and may actually dethrone the king, but again, not a whitewash. It comes down to nuance. What's more important to you? I can't answer that question, but I can compare for you. You see this argument in your mind and thinks, LMG, it'll be slow and have shite movement speed. You know, the same way your mind tells you a perfect 10 is likely a psychopath. But the Bruen defies that. It's an LMG in name and ammo capacity only. Without attachments, it's slightly slower than a kitted out AR, but you know, for Warzone it's not that noticeable as usually a pre-aim anyway. It's quick enough to not feel slow when sprinting and genuinely feels decent. Now that's just without attachments. Remove the stock here, reduce the ammo there, and it's right up there with base assault rifles, and the recoil is still top notch. So much you don't really need a grip or a barrel even. Yeah, you take the stock off and it's still stable, unlike your finances. Anyway, point being, don't let the fact it's an LMG make you think this is a slow weapon, because it's not. It's quick, very quick, and handles extremely well. Obviously not as fluent as the M4A1, but the fact it wields so much power and destruction for the movement speed you have of it, it feels better than the M4A1, and that is no easy feat. Now its flavors of ammo are 100, which is its standard mag. Doesn't make the gun too slow, but it's not what the gun's all about in my opinion. You go one way or the other with this one in terms of how you build it. One will slay enemies, the other will mow down kill streaks with ease. That would be the first mag you unlock, which is the 200 round mag. Pop this on your demolitions class, if you have one. If not, what the fuck's wrong with you? With FMJ and you'll melt pretty much anything you take a pop at. This is true for Warzone vehicles too, but if you're going to use a weapon slot for that shit, you might as well just use an RPG, because that's OP at the moment. Just expect to use it like any other LMG, except okay handling, but noticeably slower ADS. What's the upside to using this? Well, that would be the fact that once you pick this up, you'll have 200 bullets. So if you respawn or you have no ammo and you hit a loadout drop, you pretty much have what most people would have as max ammo to begin with. So that's pretty handy. Also, you can wreck helicopters pretty easily without having to pause to reload, which is good for not letting the chopper escape Death's Grasp. Ooh, Death's Grasp. Might need the 200 mag version, that. You'll also never have to reload this in a gunfight if you're hitting your shots. You may be suppressing fire, but you'll definitely buy time for your teammate to heal or reposition. Brilliant solution if you can't snipe and you want to run an SMG, LMG combo, or run Renettis or snake shots. Probably wouldn't run it with a sniper though, as you'll have no mobility and be a sitting duck when you have to run in the open, or when the gas is chasing you. You will be slow. The ADS time here is harsh for fights up close too, but really fun to use and all. Next is the bread and butter though, in my opinion, the best way to run the gun, the 60 round mags. The 60 round mags is where this weapon truly shines. This is the single best attachment for this weapon to improve its handling, for a start. None of the damage numbers change, you're still wielding an LMG, the reload speed is dramatically improved, slightly longer than the M4A1, but now only slightly. Clip out, clip in, simples. Also, the ADS time is now faster than some of the assault rifles. Movement speed is now not shite and can be ran with whatever config you want. 60 rounds tends to be enough for most fights, and if it isn't, the reload isn't going to be unbearable. If it's good enough for the M4, it's good enough for the Bruen. This gun's raw damage is higher than the M4A1 normal ammo, and the rate of fire is comparable. This, in combination with the fact that the weapon has really high base accuracy and very little recoil, even when you strip it down, means I would actually consider picking this over the M4A1 in Warzone. But would I actually replace the M4A1? Let's conclude that now for you. M4A1 in multiplayer has its place, it's king for a reason. The range you're going to be taking fights at in multiplayer are not going to be causing you to make this a hit marker machine. The mag size is good enough and you can have a little bit more customization options and conversions. In Warzone, it is powerful, but it lacks the punch at range and it can be very hit markery. Only problem is somebody with a sniper or LMG is going to punish you at those ranges. Very strong and very consistent and very adaptable. The Bruen is a little different. It has that little extra range and it can be kitted to wreck vehicles, kill streaks and more. In multiplayer, I would use the M4A1, but potentially in Warzone squads, I've got to lean towards the Bruen Mk9. It's more damage, potentially more ammo, quick enough handling to compete with, and it can also be built to supplement another primary. Another factor to bear in mind is that this is classed as an LMG, which means you're going to be having a much easier time wall banging people than you would be with the M4A1 in either ammo mode. It needs no recoil attachments, even when you go for max handling, and it's competitive with anything in its range. You'll notice I said Warzone squads. That's because in solos I'll be leaning towards the 10mm Socom rams. This has the highest DPS of any configuration we've talked about today. Pick your fights in squads. If you want to yeet people into respawning or going into the gulag when they decide to put that back in for solos, unless you're missing your shots, not much can compete with this. I love it and I genuinely think it has been overlooked because of the small round capacity. So yeah, multiplayer, M4A1, kill streaks, Bruen Mk9, Warzone squads, Bruen Mk9, Warzone solo, M4A1. Now remember, this is my opinions on all these. I do use these weapons extensively before I make these videos. So if you do have a different opinion to give, do let us know in the comments below. But yeah, I hope you like this video, and if you do, please hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, helps me out loads. And what do you want the next comparison video to be? Let me know in the comments below, and yeah, we'll take it from there. You take care, everyone.